Title: Afghans in Albania, A Tale of Sun, Sea, and Infinite US Visa Waiting Game. TLDR, hundreds of Afghans, who fled the brutal clutches of the Taliban regime nearly 2 years ago, are now hanging out in Albania. Why? They're stuck in a seemingly infinite waiting loop for their promised US visas. For instance, we have the story of Feroz Mashouf, a 35-year-old photojournalist, who's been kicking it in sunny Albania and working at a mall while enduring what feels like the world's longest commercial break before he can start his new life in America. And yes, he and many others like him are getting quite antsy. Okay folks, let's take a moment to step into the shoes of Feroz Mashouf, a former employee of the Afghan Soccer Federation and a 35-year-old photojournalist. Feroz is now far from his homeland, working in a mall and taking long seaside walks in the Albanian town of Shëngjin. But this isn't exactly the vacation it sounds like. He's stuck in a seemingly never-ending waiting game for his promised US visa. Imagine the anxiety levels here, folks. The heartbreaking scene of his last day in Kabul still haunts him. The last thing he saw as his plane took off was a dreary sunset blanketing the mountains around Kabul, and his heart no doubt weighed heavy as he bid goodbye to his homeland. Today, while in Albania, Feroz's mind is plagued with panic attacks and the crazy fear that he might be forgotten in this long-drawn process. Are you getting the picture yet? Hundreds of Afghans, like Feroz, are stuck in this emotional rollercoaster, trying to adapt to a semblance of normalcy in the Albanian environment, which is certainly more sunny and welcoming than the one they left behind. However, their concerns and fears for the families they left behind taint their sunny days in Albania. Now, to their credit, our Afghan friends here remain hopeful, despite the prolonged bureaucracy of the visa process. And, let's face it, we've all been in a long queue at some point, right? But imagine that queue stretching out for 2 years with no end in sight. Frustrating, huh? Feroz and his Afghan comrades, who were temporarily sheltered in Shëngjin, a town on the Adriatic coast about 70 kilometers northwest of the Albanian capital of Tirana, are indeed trying to keep their spirits high. And let's not forget, they're facing a future in the unknown, if and when that visa comes through. Talk about cliffhangers. Now, if you were in their shoes, how would you cope with such a situation? And the bigger question, what's next for these Afghans in Albania and their dreams of starting a new life in America?